I really appreciate it when you guys put in your thoughts in the comments. Like, I appreciate when you guys add to what I'm saying. It gives me a chance to kind of reflect and go back and keeps the conversation going, right? So I don't feel like I'm just talking to myself. So please, as I'm talking about this, feel free, absolutely free, to put in anything in the comments you want. Now, I titled this video, I cause a stir sometimes, and that's okay. Because frankly, it's kind of built into me, right? It was a coping skill I had in both junior high and high school. People would say things about me, say mean things about me, make fun of me, whatever it was. I basically around seventh grade, I hit a point where I just decided I was going to have no shame, right? And so my coping skill kind of became just taking up that mantle, right? And treating those insults like compliments, if that makes sense. And then playing the part of the character that these people thought I would be. It very quickly kind of took the wind out of the sails of the people who would try to give me a hard time, because I could say instead of it bothering me, I just lived it, right? So I did cause a stir recently, and this had to do with parenting. And so I thought this would be a great topic to get back started in our Teammate Talks podcasts about. So the other day on Instagram, hey Instagram, and Facebook, but the other day on Instagram, I posted a meme that somebody had made for me years ago. And it basically says that punishments create liars, consequences teach life, and constantly punishing kids only really teaches them how to be better liars. Now, I had a couple people in the comments that came in understandably misunderstanding what I'm saying when I say something like that, because it's very easy to misconstrue and think that consequences and punishments are the same thing. But they're not. See, they're two different words. They have two different definitions, and the intention behind them are two different things. Now, can they overlap? Absolutely. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they don't have to overlap. So, let's just start off by talking about definitions, right? So, the definition of a consequence is it's an effect, right? It's an effect that is caused by an action. So a consequence could be something like, I do something, I say something, and because I said or did this thing happens. That's a consequence. And that's why, even though we have a negative tone about it from the time we're kids, the term consequence doesn't have to be a negative thing. There is a such thing as positive consequences, right? So the positive consequence of doing push-ups every day is that my triceps are going to get stronger, my punches are going to get stronger, my punches are going to get faster. That's a positive consequence. Now, a negative consequence might be something like, I say something mean to my wife who's sitting right next to me, and she doesn't talk to me for a week.
I might not do that. But
Or she slaps me in the face. She won't slap me. She'll straight up punch me. But, right, so that would be like a negative consequence. See what I mean? Now, a punishment can be a consequence, but a consequence doesn't have to be a punishment. So let's get into the definition of what a punishment is, right? So if you look up what a punishment is basically, I don't want to say it wrong by paraphrasing. So I'll just go to the webpage and say it. A punishment is the infliction or imposition of a penalty as retribution for an offense. So basically, a punishment is a enactance of a suffering, a pain, or a loss in the form of a retribution. You hurt me, I hurt you, right?
You throw the toy.
You throw the toy, I throw it away. You throw the toy, or you hit me, I hit you back. Or you yell at me, I yell back. That's the concept of a punishment. Or you yell at me and I take something away from you to cause you a pain or loss or suffering as retribution for an event or an offense that you have caused on me. So right there, can you guys see the difference now between a consequence and a punishment? It's very easy for a lot of us, because those terms get used so interchangeably. It's easy for a lot of us who have never looked up those terms to kind of confuse consequence and punishment as the same thing. They're not quite the same thing. They can overlap, but they're not quite the same thing. Hello, Ammo Junkie, Miss Willard, for joining us on Instagram. I want to appreciate you guys jumping in and listening to me rant for a little bit. Feel free to comment your thoughts. I am all for open discussions about this stuff. You don't have to agree with me. That's fine. I don't agree with me half the time. My wife definitely doesn't agree with me more than half the time. My son almost never agrees with me, right? And that's okay. And that's what I mean by the title of this video. Sometimes my thoughts are different from the way other people look at things, and sometimes that causes a stir, and that's okay. You kind of explain why my thoughts are different. So I was kind of a different sort of kid, even without the family traumas and the SA and all that stuff that went down in my childhood. I was already a different kid from the time I was kind of like born. I wasn't really like a lot of the other kids. I wasn't overly hyperactive or anything like that, though actually I did have a lot of hyperactivity. I just hid it from everybody. I only did that when I wasn't around anybody else.
It's
But
called masking, and it's not safe and it's not
it's
healthy.
in the marriage contract. Yeah, it's in the marriage contract. Yeah, so that's the way I was as a kid. So in front of adults and public figures, I was very quiet. I was very shy, and I didn't speak much. What I enjoyed doing was I enjoyed hyper focusing. I enjoyed tuning everything else out and getting into a really big problem to see if I could solve it. That was what I liked doing as a kid. A lot of kids like running or sports or playing with their friends. Those things were second to me. I loved solving problems. I loved being able to solve problems that other people around me could not solve. That was just what I was into. Now, all of those behaviors turned into different things. I was bullied and picked on a lot till I learned some coping skills around seventh or eighth grade. That was mostly me going, you know what? I'm not going to have any shame from this moment on. If you want to call me this thing, I'm just going to be that thing around you, right? And that was kind of a coping skill of mine for a while. It wasn't until like I was already teaching martial arts, already had this business. It wasn't until like 4 or 5 years ago that it was confirmed that I had, ADHD and bipolar disorder and PTSD and a little bit of OCD.
You have a lot of
I have a lot of letters. There's a lot of acronyms to my name now. But I get it. Like, I don't think the same way that a lot of people think. Being just a smidge onto the spectrum, right? I take things very literally, and I see the differences in definitions of words, and I take those things very literally, right? So consequences and punishments, I see where they get conflated, but to a person like me, they're not the same thing. So to get into a bit more of an explanation of that, let me kind of explain it by using a bit of an anecdote, right? A bit of an example. So a consequence as a parent could be something like, I want to play with my child. Maybe my child's 5, 8, 9, and I want to play a game with them. But they start kind of acting mean towards me during the game. They're treating me like crap. They keep changing the rules. Maybe they're saying mean things. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because you have to understand that kids role play in their play. They role play to see what different things will do and the effect that they have. So I'd be lying if I said I didn't let my child role play when he was younger being mean, and then I role play different types of things, consequences and things that might come about that type of meanness, right? But all as part of the game, not as like a real consequence or punishment. All just as part of the role play of the game. So maybe we're playing, I don't know, a doctor or house or something, right? And he starts playing like being a mean doctor. So I start playing like
we're going to amputate limbs.
right. So I start playing like a freaked out patient that's like responding to the meanness of a doctor, so he gets to see how those kind of natural responses happen, right? But a consequence might be, for example, that we're playing a game and he starts throwing toys at me or something like that. So here's the difference between a consequence and a punishment. A consequence would be something like, hey, I'm going to set a boundary first. That's the key to a consequence. You set a boundary first.
Now, most people don't understand the difference between boundaries and rules, which is actually why I pulled this chair over here, because I was going to insert this in at some point in time anyway.
Okay.
Boundaries are personal things that you put in place for yourself for communication.
Personal lines in the sand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rules are meant to impose control over others.
Right. So there's another one of those two types of terms that can get easily conflagrate. I don't know what word I'm looking for. Easily confused with each other. But Miss Rose is right on that. Hi Bree. Hi Jonathan. It's good to see you guys on here. Feel free to comment, add anything you say, disagree with me, agree with me. I don't really care. We're basically talking about how a lot of people see consequences and discipline and punishments as kind of the same things. And I'm talking about how they're different. So, for example, a consequence would start with a boundary. So maybe I'm playing with a young child and that child starts throwing toys at me, throwing blocks at me. So I'm going to start with a boundary, because it's not fair to give a consequence when the person doesn't know that there's going to be a consequence for their actions. So I first pre-frame them by giving a boundary, and I say something like, I really don't like you throwing your stuff at me, that really hurts. So if you're going to keep throwing your stuff at me, I'm simply not going to play anymore until you decide to be nice to me. Now remember, I've done podcasts on this endlessly before about how to set boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't saying stop doing this. That's kind of like setting a rule. Setting boundaries is saying stop doing this or I will do this. Whereas setting a rule is saying stop doing this or this will happen to you, right? That's a little bit different.
It's subtle.
So
but
it's a subtle
very
difference, but
different.
there is a difference. So if I'm playing with a young kid, they throw stuff at me, I start by setting that boundary, right? They continue to throw stuff at me, and I say, okay, I'm done playing. I'm not going to play anymore until you decide that you can be gentle with me, because I'm not going to play a game where I feel like I'm going to be hurt. Now, walking away from that play might upset the child. It might say, well, I really want to play with you. Or maybe it doesn't upset them and they play on their own for a little bit and then they get bored really fast and they want to come play with me again. That's my opportunity to reiterate my boundary. Okay, I'll play with you again, but no throwing stuff at me or I'm just going to walk away again, right? So that would be a consequence. A consequence is an effect of your action. So their action is throwing stuff at me. The consequence is I'm not going to play. And then over time, and it does take longer than punishments, but over time, they will decide for themselves that the better decision to make is to be nice to the person they're playing with so that person will want to keep playing with them.
It creates more critical thinking on
But
their
it gives them the ability to make the right decision for themselves because they see why it's the right decision to make. And if they don't make that right decision in the first 2 or 3 times, then I can play guidance. Then I can sit my child down and go, okay, but how would you feel if you were playing with somebody and they started throwing stuff at you and it hurt really bad? Would you want them to continue that? Would you want to keep playing with them? And that puts the ball in their court to understand why I set the boundary, why I made the decision I made, and allows them the autonomy to make their own decision so they can feel like it's their own decision. So now instead of telling them what decision they're going to make, I am guiding them to a better decision. And I'm saying, so do you see why I made that decision? How would you feel in my position? Well, that's the way I feel. So do you see why I made this decision? So if you want me to keep playing with you, you're going to have to make this decision to stop treating me in this way. That teaches kids to make the right decision because they want to make the right decision, not because they're afraid to make the wrong decision. And this is the big difference between consequences and punishments. If instead I punish my child, so I tell them, hey, you keep throwing that stuff at me, I'm just going to take it all away from you. If you keep doing this, then you're going to be grounded for a week. If you keep doing this, then you're going to get a spanking. Whatever, right, that punishment is. Now what I'm saying is, you cause me pain, I'm going to cause you pain. And what does that teach the child when we do this for years and years? We do this for 2, 3, 4 years through the ages of 5 to 8. What does that teach them? It teaches them that if somebody else hurts them, then they can punish that other person by causing the other person loss, pain, and suffering, which creates just an endless cycle of revenge and retribution that escalates into physical conflict. And it will escalate all the way through and into and through the teen years. I've seen this happen over and over and over again, right? So that is the consequence of using punishments instead of consequences, because punishments will teach a child to make the right decision because they're afraid to make the wrong decision. So if I continue to punish somebody over and over and over, they're not going to decide for themselves to make the right decision. Instead, they're going to hide the fact that they continue to make the wrong decision from you and lie about it, which is what I mean by punishments create better liars.
Or you will start to see one, that they just don't care and they're going to do whatever they want anyway, regardless of the consequences. I've heard
Regardless of the punishment.
regardless of the punishment. Like, I can take everything away from my kid and they just don't care. Well, yeah, because they now feel like no matter what they do, they're going to get in trouble regardless.
Right. So instead of guiding them to make a better decision, you're just showing them that if you do something bad, I can do something bad back to you.
Yep.
And then they start feeling like if they do anything at all, because that's the thing. A lot of times, whatever they did in the first place, they may not have even realized was wrong. How many of us actually sit down and can come up with all the rules we need to have and all the punishments we need to have with them in one sitting, and then make sure that the child understands every single rule, every single punishment, every single thing that happens. So in a lot of these cases, the child doesn't even understand that they did something wrong yet. and we haven't explained to them why it's wrong. We haven't let them make the decision to see why it's wrong, and instead we just keep punishing them. So they're going to keep making that same decision because they feel like any decision that they make, anything that they do, is going to be wrong, and they're going to get punished, so I don't care. I'll just take the punishment and deal with it. But that also teaches them retribution and revenge. So then as they get older, they're going to copy that behavior, and when someone else hurts them, they're going to try to hurt that other person.
Alternatively, the other thing that can happen is that a child will then become locked up in indecision and unable to make any decisions for themselves or do any actions by themselves because they are afraid of any punishments that might occur from it.
And this happens when they weren't expecting the punishments. When a lot of the time, half the time they get punished, they weren't really aware that they were doing anything punish worthy, and then they get punished anyway. Now maybe they were doing something consequence worthy or punishment worthy in your mind, but they're a kid. Maybe you hadn't sat down and talked to them beforehand about how that is punishment worthy, right, or whatever. And so that can cause them to not know if what they want to do or what they desire to do or what they want out of life, or if even just acting like themselves is going to get them punished or not, and causes a severe amount of anxiety about decision making and causes a lot of indecision, which really holds a person back in their adult life. You guys all know that are adults. You know that indecision and being unable to make a decision and anxiety around decisions holds back your career, it holds back your education, it makes you constantly second guess everything and makes you afraid to take risks.
And it makes you unable to communicate properly in your adult relationships,
Does.
right? If I'm afraid to ask for help, or I'm afraid to ask for something that I need, or whatever, then everything's going to break down simply because I'm just too
You don't
afraid.
ask for it.
I'm just
Too afraid to ask for it because you're afraid, I'm going to get in trouble for needing this, or for wanting this, or for wanting to do this, or something along those lines, right? So there's your distinct difference between consequence and punishment. Now, I did say they overlap a little bit. So, for example, a way they might overlap might be where I give a punishment as a consequence, but that has to come with pre-framing first. Hey, man, I've asked you to take out the trash twice, right? I've asked you to take it out twice. You haven't done it. I'm going to give you one more chance. But if you don't get the trash taken out today, because I really need it done, then the punishment is going to be that for the next week, that gotta do something, whatever it might be. I mean, everybody does their thing differently.
Well, yeah,
but this is where punishments do overlap with consequences. And this is what we see in the criminal justice system, right? So the thing about it is that's adults, though. And right now we're talking about kids. Now, as adults, we're expected to know what's expected of us. We're expected to know the difference between what's illegal and what's legal. Now, sometimes that line is very weird, especially when you get into self-defense and things like that. That line can move based on where you're at, the judge you're dealing with, the police officers you're dealing with, and stuff like that. That stuff can move. But we're expected to have a general understanding of what's legal and illegal. And so therefore, it's assumed that when we perform an illegal act and get caught for it, that we were aware that there was going to be a punishment ahead of time. So therefore, the punishment is the consequence, because the consequence was supposedly set ahead of time, and you were supposed to kind of know that there was going to be this type of punishment in relation to that crime. And so that's where punishment and consequence can overlap. And you can set a punishment as a consequence, but you also need to remember that if you don't set the consequence first, then a punishment comes across as retribution. It comes across as me trying to cause you pain, loss, and suffering.
Like, for example, my favorite one with Axel over the years, and we haven't had to do this in a very long time. I only actually had to talk about this consequence twice. So if I have to ask for his room to be picked up so that it's not a fire hazard for a week, and I'm at like day 4, I'm like, hey dude, I've asked you to clean this 4 different times. You have until Sunday to get it cleaned. If you don't, I'm coming in and I'm taking out everything that I don't want.
And I'm going to clean it, and I'm going to get rid of stuff that I don't know that you even want anymore, and stuff like that.
I'm going to assume you don't want everything because you're not taking care of it.
So if you want to say in it, then get in there and clean it. And then when they get, and here's the thing, I'm always a big proponent of helping out through the consequences too. So then they go ahead and start cleaning, they go through things, they start to feel overwhelmed, then I'm going to come in and help. I'm going to come in and help. And I'll be like, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want to give this away? Do you want to pack this away? Right? And then I get in and help, right? And that way it shows that I am willing to guide and help my child to a consequence of their own actions.
Retribution would be, however, if I said on Monday, I need you to clean your room by the end of the week, and then on Friday, I go in
And just take everything,
away.
right? That's a, hey, you didn't do what I said you should do, so I'm going to punish you. I'm going to take something away from you. I'm going to cause you suffering because you didn't say it, right? So because I got into a bit of a thing there and caused a bit of a stir over a post on Instagram, I wanted to clarify myself because this is something I talk about a lot. And like I say, I do understand that I see things a little differently from a lot of people. So if you don't see this the same way, that's okay, and we can talk about it. But I also know that I can be overwhelming when it comes to debates because here's the thing. I have this weird little internal rule. My weird little internal rule is I never shy away from why. I never shy away from the why. Matter of fact, and this has been with me since I was a little kid, I want to know why. I want to know the why about everything. And until I know why, I couldn't care less. Until I know why I need to know how to do the math this way, then I couldn't care. Until I know why I'm reading the story or what lessons I might get out of it, then I don't care. Which is why when we teach, we always talk about every drill that we do, we're supposed to give the takeaways. That means the why we're doing the drill. Here, this is why we're working on this. This is why you're doing this. So that you can understand what it is that we're working for, what skills we're working on, and why we're working on it.
And sometimes I like to ask, you saw me last night, I was like, why do you think I would do this?
Yeah.
What,
and I like to ask
thinking?
people why too, because asking why creates critical thinking skills, right? If I say why and you say, I don't know, I say, well, let's get deeper into this, because if you don't know, then you're not thinking it through all the way, right? So I think the question why builds critical thinking skills. So for me, when I come out and I say something about punishments just create liars and consequences teach life, I can promise you that I know exactly why I'm saying that, right? I have a legit logical reason for saying that. And that doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong either. But what I can say is that I have a legit logical reason and experience for saying the thing that I'm saying. And critical thinking skills are so important to me. I mean, just look at the internet these days. I mean, even locally, right? Even some of the local groups and stuff like that. The amount of people who just don't ask themselves why about anything. Well, why would somebody say that? Or why would this person say that? Or why would this thing happen? Instead of asking themselves why, they just look at something and go straight to outrage. I'm outraged by this. Okay, but did we ask ourselves why this thing happened?
And I want to know why you're outraged.
Why are you outraged, right? And a lot of times it's like, okay, well, when they do their rant, I can be like, okay, I see why you're outraged, but, did you ever ask yourself why this situation occurred in the first place, or why someone would have a reason to say that the situation occurred, whether maybe it did or maybe it didn't occur? Have you ever asked yourself why this person that you look up to would be saying this, or if maybe they might have a reason to manipulate you, or maybe they have a reason to lie to you? See, this is the thing. I got ruined by having a hyperfixation for like 2 years straight on advertising, marketing, psychology, and influence. All of those things came together to kind of ruin me in being able to realize when someone is going to want to manipulate or influence me and the types of tricks they might use to influence me or manipulate me. And I got to be honest, I'm an advertiser, and I can tell you right now, 90% of people that see my ads are influenced by them in some form or fashion, because I know how to influence people, and I'm using manipulation tactics to do so. That's the game of advertising. That's what you do. But here's the thing that scares me. I feel like maybe 10 or 20% should be influenced by my ads. But that's not what happens. Closer to 80 or 90% are influenced by it. And that scares me, because that shows me how few people have those critical thinking skills to be able to see that, what I'm doing and what I say, and then go, oh, they're just trying to get a rise out of me, right? But once you learn that skill, you can start to see through the manipulations, the influence, the things like that, and start to see a clearer picture of what you're actually looking at. And those things are really important to me. That's why I ask my classes why all the time, so I can help these kids build some critical thinking skills. So even my 7 and 8-year-olds, right, we'll be talking about courtesy, or we'll be talking about focus. I'm going to go ahead and use courtesy. We'll be talking about courtesy, and with my students, I talk about courtesy as one of the top 3 best weapons for active protection, keeping yourself safe. Courtesy is one of your top 3 weapons. And I'll ask them, all right, if being nice is one of your top 3 weapons for staying safe, and these are 7 and 8-year-olds, they have some good answers. And I'll ask them, why do you think I say that? Why do you think I say being nice to somebody is one of your best weapons to stay safe around people, right? And then we can get into a conversation about how being nice to others can de-escalate or calm down situations sometimes, right? Because the next episode of this Teammate Talks I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and plug our next episode. The next episode I wanted to do was about how people tend to mirror each other. We can't help it. We have this automatically biological influence that if somebody approaches us and they're happy, we want to feel happy. If somebody approaches us and they're sad, we want to feel sad. If somebody approaches us and they're angry, we want to respond with anger. If someone approaches us hatefully, we want to respond with hate. So a quick way to short circuit somebody's brain when they're angry is to use courtesy. And it can often short circuit somebody's brain into going, wait, what? Are you insulting me? Like, I don't know what you mean by what you just said, right? And I've used this trick many, many times in both my childhood life and my adult life. And it's like, it's amazing, right? But this is understanding psychology and understanding influence, right? So understanding how to influence people. And the easiest people to influence are emotional people. Emotional people are by far the easiest people to influence. I'm not saying emotion is bad. What I am saying is it's important to understand and be able to see when somebody else is trying to play your emotions. And that's what our next episode is going to be about, right? Somebody else trying to play your emotions. And that's another valuable skill in martial arts. When I spar somebody, when I fight somebody, look, I got students that are technically more skilled than me, right? A lot of students that are technically more skilled than me. But I'm also older. I'm slower than I used to be. I don't have the flexibility I used to have. I don't even have the strength I used to have. So how can I stay on top of things? Because I'm good at influence, right? So when I'm in a sparring match, I will try to influence your emotions, sometimes through words, sometimes through actions, but I will do my best to influence you.
It don't work on me.
It does not. Now, my long-term students, they know these tricks now, right? But a lot of my intermediate advanced ranks, they haven't figured this out yet. That a lot of times, once you get on even footing in a fight situation, a lot of times the person who wins is the person who wins at the mental game. If I can make you feel fear, if I can make you feel intimidation, even for a split second, if I can make you flinch, if I can make you doubt, then I win. That's it, right? Doesn't matter if you're better than me. I can win if I can make you lose your focus. I can win if I can manipulate what you're paying attention to. So I'll make you pay attention to one thing only to shock you with another thing. Does that make sense? Right? So, and this is what politicians do. This is what advertisers do. It's what a lot of them do. But we're getting off topic. So I also want to say, last thing I want to say for this is it's okay to cause a stir. It's okay to have your own thoughts about things. It's okay to do things that are crazy, right?
It's okay for people to question it.
Yeah, I just posted the other day, and I don't know why, but I was really concerned about what people would think about this, even though when I was a kid I never would have cared. But
It's okay, I don't care now.
But like me and Axel, like we were walking through Walmart, and I told him I was going to buy him this Disney princess outfit for his Halloween costume as a joke. And then he was like, I'll wear it if you do. Oh, there's a dare. I don't back down from dares, right? So I was like, we can't do that. I'll be prettier than you, And in the end, we end up buying each other outfits, and now it looks like we're going to go to Halloween as Disney princesses. Now, I was all fun and games and all that for the first couple of weeks of this, and then for some reason, a part of me went, oh, some people might get offended about a boy dressing up as a princess on Halloween or whatever. So I decided to post about it, right? So I posted about it yesterday because I wanted to see how the community would react. And the response was overwhelmingly positive, which is awesome, right? So we're going to do this thing. We're going to do it. But at the same time, what I'm talking about here is, actually, what was I talking about?
Not caring what other people think.
Yeah. So there you go. It's okay to cause a stir sometimes. It's okay to get people upset with you. As long as you know why you're doing it, you're having a good time with it, then whatever, right? They can say what they want. I've had people, I brought up the costume thing too, that scoffed at me, going, let your 12-year-old wear a dress? He's a boy.
I'd let him wear a kilt. Is that really
Whatever. It's a dress-up holiday, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's all for fun, right? So, it's just one of those things. You can't be afraid to cause a stir, because causing a stir is where the fun comes from. And it's where the real learning happens. It's where the real debates get to happen, like this one, between punishment, the differences between punishment and consequence. Because to me, there are differences. And if you want to see the effect of those differences, I mean, I get that this is anecdotal, it's just one kid, but look at my son. Look how he acts. Look what he does. That's the effect of that, right? He has a deep sense of responsibility. He has a deep sense of fairness. right? And all of that kind of comes from
critical thinker.
is pretty critical thinking for the most part. I mean, he'll see an advertisement and he'll kind of be like, I really want that. And then he'll go, oh, well, this is what made me want it in the advertisement. And then he'll think about it for a while and then he'll go, well, I either don't want it or I still want it because I think it would be a cool thing and I could use it for this, right? And so that's the thing. When I purchase things, I think that way. First, I divide my wants and needs, right? If it's a want, then I wait several months to let myself really process what I would use it for, how I would use it. And I let advertisements inform me about new things, but I don't let advertisements influence whether I'm going to buy that thing. I let the advertisement inform me that it's there, and then I decide for myself, what would I use it for? What would it be good for? Do I think it would last? Do I think it would be durable and all that? Will I still want it in 3 months? And if I still want it in 3 months, then I'll go for it, right? That's my budgeting trick for us ADHD people. It's a good way to go because here's the thing. Most often you'll go, all right, 3 months from now, if I still want it, I'll buy it. You ain't going to remember it 3 months from now. It's going to be long gone. Object permanence, right? It's not in your head. You might see it a few more times and go, oh yeah, I was thinking about that. But you know what? I haven't wanted it in 6 weeks, so I haven't thought about it. So I'm fine without it, right? And that's just kind of how I do things. But I'm going to go ahead and end. Oh, you got something else? Go ahead.
I was just going to kind of do an overall recap of what we talked about. Consequences are neither good or bad.
Nope.
They are preferred or
They could be
unpreferred.
both good or bad or preferred or
Preferred
unpreferred.
or unpreferred.
Well, it kind of depends on what you look at. Like some people might see certain ones as good or bad, too.
But
You know.
what's good for you might be bad for me, which is why I say preferred and unpreferred.
Yeah.
Um,
But understand that a consequence,
Yeah.
like let's say we're dealing with a situation between us, right? And let's say that you are giving me a consequence of something that I said or something that I did. In my view, I might see the consequence as bad. But in your view, you might see the consequence as good because maybe it's something that I feel like I have to do extra, go out of my way for, whatever, right? That I may see that as a crap, this is going to be a pain. Whereas you might see it as, well, if this consequence happens, this is going to be beneficial to me. So that's why I say good and bad,
Why is
but
it
preferred,
preferred?
unpreferred, same kind of thing.
Punishments are 99% of the time going to be bad. That's their by design. They are meant to be bad to dissuade you through fear.
They are by definition an act of revenge or retribution.
Yes. Boundaries are personal rules you impose upon yourself and nobody else. Rules
Yes, rules for you.
are
I will not put
things-
up with this or I will do this.
Yes.
Not I will not put up with this or you should do this. It's not about that. It's about saying I need you to do this. If you don't, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
It's a personal rule.
and it only affects you in the end.
Unless the people around you care enough to,
Yes.
to respect that boundary, in which case they'll change their behavior around
Yeah.
it.
But that gives the boundaries, put the ball in someone else's court. With rules, you take that ball and you throw it in their face.
Yeah. Which is why rules are different than boundaries and
Yes.
consequences are different
Yes.
from punishments.
And last one, manipulation is
Different
not
from influence.
It is different from influence, and manipulation in of itself is not bad. Just
No.
like consequences are not good or bad, manipulation can either be good or bad.
And I see that a little differently. This is where we might disagree a bit on that.
Sure.
Because this is where I talk about manipulation and influence being two different things. So I talk about manipulation as I am trying to get you to do something that is beneficial to me for my own selfish reasons. If I'm influencing somebody, that's where I'm trying to use manipulation tactics to get you to make a good decision for yourself. So that's where I see the difference. That's how I distinguish. And I don't know, maybe that's not a good distinguishment, but that's how I distinguish manipulation versus influence. And that's one of the things I try to think about when I do ads is I don't want to manipulate anybody. I want to influence them. So instead of, hey, you should, come to our studio, you'll get this, this, and this, and this, and this, which is what most ads for martial arts studios are. Hey, Newcastle moms, do you want your kid to be more focused? Do you want him to have a good time? We can do this and more. All you got to do is click the link and buy the trial, right? That's a classic martial arts industry ad. Gymnastics do similar. If you see my ads are usually a little bit different because I don't want to manipulate you, I want to influence you. So instead, I like to usually start off with a question or a statement like, hey, physical activity should be fun. Or a question like, is it important to you to raise responsible children? Something that gets you thinking about something personal, right? And then I'll go, instead of doing the, well, I promise you we can do this, guaranteed, I don't do any of that. And instead, I kind of go into, well, here's how our classes are fun, and here's the effect a fun class has on kids. The more fun it is, the more likely they are to stay with it, the more skills they'll build, the more commitment they'll have to it, and they'll learn so much faster when they have fun. So I'm going to talk about the benefits to you. These are the benefits you would get from classes being fun. Or the responsible kids one. Is raising responsible kids important to you? Well, here's how. Then this way, I'm big on why. So I don't say, is raising responsible kids important to you? We can teach your kids responsibility. Instead, I say, is raising responsible kids important to you? Here's how we go about teaching responsibility and how we will back you up on the most important things you learn at home. So rather than trying to manipulate you to get in and buy something that you don't fully understand, I'm trying to influence you to understand what it is you would be getting into, what it is you would be buying into, so that you can make that decision for yourself. Whereas traditional ads will tell you, we can do this for you, but they won't tell you how or why, because they want you to come in and buy it. They want to manipulate you to come in and buy it before you see the how or why. You know why that is? Because they know they can't back it up 50% of the time. They know only 50% of the time do their claims actually work. But you're more likely to stay with it if they get you to make a purchase first. So they'll say, we can teach your kids to be responsible, we can teach your kids to focus better, and we can teach them to get better grades, and we can teach them to have more discipline, all this and more. Try our free trial after that. It's $59 for a month trial, or get a free uniform, some FOMO crap, right? That's what you get with most ads for martial arts studios and all that. But the reason they don't tell you how or why they can do those things is because they don't really have it built into their curriculum. So they're just using buzzwords because they know martial arts can be used to teach these things. So they throw in these buzzwords of things parents might want to manipulate them to come in and then pay for something. And then after they pay for something, then they're going to see whether they get what they're looking for out of it or not. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But even if you're not, you're already committed through a payment, and maybe your kid's having some fun with it and they enjoy it, so you're going to continue. That's manipulation. That's advertising for manipulation. I'd like to do something different. And instead, I like to talk about, well, here's why we can teach this to your kids. Here's how we go about teaching this to your kids. And then we have you come in for a free trial. Always insist on a free trial, so you can see for yourself how we bake it into our curriculum with our Teammate Word of the Week program. We literally have these things built into the curriculum rather than just use them as buzzwords like a lot of other studios do. And we don't ask you for a payment. We don't ask you for any kind of payment until after you can see for yourself how we go about teaching these things. And then at that point, you can make a good decision for yourself about whether what we're teaching is going to be a good influence on you and your family, or a not so good influence on you and your family. And you can make your own decision from there as to whether you want to buy into the tuition, rather than trying to get you to make a financial. Guys, this is all over the martial arts school owner, gymnastics school owner groups and things, the national and international level groups. It's all about spark an emotion. Make promises. Get them to put dollars down, because once they put dollars down, they're more committed to it. So charge for $10 for a trial, $5 for a trial, $1 for a trial. That way you have their credit card info, and that way they're financially invested into what they're doing. This is what we're taught as school owners. I choose to do something different, and I try to teach other people to do something different, and I have numbers and stats to back it up all day long. I beat national averages all day long, both in sales and marketing. And I have all the stats to back it up. But no one wants to listen to me because traditional big-time advice from the big advertising agencies and gurus in the industry say different, right? But, there you go. And that's why it's so important to ask yourself why and have critical thinking skills. I tried to learn from the big ad agencies, and I went, this doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? And then when they would answer me why, I would go, okay, but I don't see how that's beneficial to my student. And that was the key difference when I was learning. Other people would go, oh, I see how that's beneficial to my studio. Me, I don't ask why this is beneficial to my studio. I ask, why is this beneficial to my students or potential students? And that's the difference in our approach. Everything I do is about what's beneficial to our students, not what's beneficial to our studio. Because the more our students benefit, the more our studio benefits. And I see that. I see that that's the core of our business. But a lot of martial arts studios, they're not being taught that. They don't have the critical thinking skills. So they don't see that. All they think about is what's beneficial to my studio. Well, my studio would be better if we dropped these classes. So we're just, even though we have 20 students in these classes, we're going to go ahead and drop them because that's what's beneficial to our studio. Rather than going, what can we do that's beneficial to the students? What can we do to bring more students into that class to make it beneficial to the studio? Instead of, well, we'll just go ahead and drop it. See what I'm saying? Right? We went way off topic here. But I just wanted to talk about the difference in my opinion between...
on that.
I said at the beginning of this video that I think differently and it can cause a stir sometime. Because I'll be honest with you guys, this that y'all just been witnessing for the past hour
It's a normal rabbit
is
hole.
all the time, 24/7. I can be sleeping, and this same conversation type stuff about different subjects is going on in my head all the time. So I get it. That's why I tend to cause a stir sometimes, because I have a different thing. And some of you guys that are students, I want to know, what do you think of the definitions we use for our words of the week? Because they're not typical definitions. When we talk about discipline, we don't talk about punishments. We don't talk about correcting behaviors, because that's not the discipline that matters. The discipline that matters is teaching kids to make better choices for themselves. So we say, discipline means always to do your best. Now sometimes that's way up here and sometimes your best is here, but always doing your best. That is discipline. Always doing your best, especially when you don't feel like it, right? For humility, we like to say, don't be a jerk. It's pretty simple. Kids can understand that. For responsibility, we say doing what needs doing, right? Because it's an easy way to understand what the word means. For compassion, caring for others. For integrity, keep your word. These are all easy ways to put forth these ideas, and then they allow us to get deeper into them in classes. Christy, not only has our child benefit, we have parents as benefit. So that's something I always wanted to do. I never wanted parents to come in here and feel like they were being lectured to. And for parents, I used to do these live videos every week. And this was the Teammate Talks podcast. This was the part that was for parents, so that I could talk about why we teach the way we do on the floor and how you can utilize the same tricks we use at home and stuff like that. That was the original idea of our Teammate Talks podcast. By the way, if you want to see any of our old episodes, there's like 40 episodes we've done in the past. Just search hashtag Teammate Talks on anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever. It'll come up. And you can listen to all the old podcasts. And I'm really going to try to make a schedule where I can get started doing these podcasts again for you guys, because I know this was the part that a lot of parents found the most beneficial. That being said, I don't want you guys to feel like you're being lectured to. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you some little tips and tricks, experiences, stories that I've learned over the years, and you can choose whether to use them or not. I would like to influence you, but I do not want to manipulate you. It's ultimately your choice as parents how you deal with things with your kids. And I will never cross that line. Now, granted, there's been times I've had parents come to me and want a punishment or consequence for something from their kids that I feel like is pretty outlandish. And I might kind of mention, don't you think that might be a bit severe? Maybe we can try this first. But if that's not what you want to do and you want to go straight to it, I'll back you up. I just might not back you up in quite the same way you want me to, if that makes sense.
Happens, I discuss it with the parent before I discuss anything with the kid.
Yeah, and what I will do is I will take the lesson that you want instilled, and I'll let you handle it. If you want it to be a punishment thing, I'll let you handle it on the punishment side of things. And I will approach it with the student from a completely different direction, okay? So I might do it different than what you're looking for, but I promise you I'm still going to back you up on whatever your concern is.
Yesterday, my second little kids class hadn't even started, and we were giving badges, and I heard a mom go, I need you to stop hitting me with your belt. And I turned around. I could tell by the tone of her voice this was not the first time she had asked.
Yeah.
And she was already
Yeah,
right at the
angry.
end. And I just leaned over the banister and I went, nope, give it to me.
Yeah.
And I took it. And then I talked to this tiny person, and I talked to her, and she's like, thank you so much.
If you're going to hurt
It's been
people
a rough
with
day.
it, and you explain, hey, this is the consequence. If you're going to hurt people with something, I can't let you have it till you're ready to be nice with it. That's another version of the consequence, where consequences and punishments can overlap. Because we were talking about punishments to be taking something away or causing a loss or a suffering. This is where consequences and punishments can overlap a little bit, because a punishment can be a consequence. It can be look, this is a safety thing. I can't let you hurt anybody. I want you to hurt me, so I'm going to take this thing away just for a little while. But to make it useful, don't just take it away. give them an immediate way to earn it back, where they could earn it back from you within 10 minutes. Give them an immediate way. We'll talk about that in another thing, but this is another huge topic we've done podcasts on before. Always give your child, whether it's a consequence, punishment situation, whatever, always give your child or anybody a quick way to correct the behavior. Like for us, I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to take your toy away for a week, or I'm going to take your toy away for the rest of the day. Me, I'm like, look, I'm gonna have to take this away, but as soon as you can do this and this and this and show me that you can be safe with it, you can have it back. And I might give it back within 5 minutes. I do this with stripes and belts, right? If I take a stripe or a belt, I often give it back within 10 minutes. As soon as the behavior is corrected, boom, give it back, right? Because they have to understand that once they correct the behavior, they get a positive consequence too. Sorry, cut you off.
Super squirrel.
Yeah.
All right. So she's like, thank you. It's been such a rough day. Fall break. Kiddo's out of a routine. And I was like, it's okay. It happens. This is not my first time. But I promised you when you started classes that I would have your back. And sometimes that looks ugly. I said, but I'm going to take this ugly for you. I'm going to take it. And I'm going to give them the chance to earn it back by the end of class. And you know what? They did.
Well, and like for me, if it's obvious to me that a parent has already been trying to kind of play the bad guy or whatever, then I'll try to play the good guy. Because sometimes coming at it from two different angles can help. So if I know a parent's already kind of playing the bad guy, hey, I'm going to do this if you do this, right? Then I might come around and try to play the good guy. And I might say, hey, look, I know that you've been doing this thing you're not supposed to be doing. And I know that if you keep doing it, that this is going to happen. But I tell you what, I'm going to offer something on the other side of the coin. If you correct this behavior by doing X, Y, Z, then I will give you this positive thing. And I will let you do this positive thing. That way they get both sides of that, and they can see that not only will correcting the behavior possibly remove the consequence, but it might actually cause a positive consequence. Like I said earlier, the whole point of the way I approach consequences and punishments, the entire point is to get a person to make a better decision for themselves, not to make a better decision because they're scared. So I want a person to make a better decision because they want to, because they're gonna move forward, they're gonna have a better time, and things like that. I want the kids to make better decisions because they choose to make a better decision. I don't want them to choose to make better decisions because they're afraid of what will happen if they don't. Because that's what creates liars. They will keep making, because if they haven't chosen for themselves and seen why it's a better decision to make, then they're going to keep making that bad decision because they like it, because they enjoy it, because they get something out of it. And even if there's a punishment involved, and then they're just going to take that punishment, and then they're going to keep doing that thing, and they're going to start lying about it, and they're going to get better and better liars. How do I know this? Because I was raised this way. I was raised with hardcore punishment all the time. Guess what it taught me? It taught me how to hide stuff. It taught me how to be secretive. It taught me how to be manipulative, right? And I see how the effect it had on me, and I don't want that same effect to happen on my kid. I don't want him to be 30 years old and having to try to undo all this programming from when he was a child, right? So I want to teach my child to make better decisions for himself and to know why he's making those better decisions. It's very important. Yeah, yes, I've absolutely loved Miss Amy. I've loved having him in class. He's a lot of fun. Yes, he can be, yeah, he has those ADHD moments. I get it. I look at him and I go, yep, he lost focus there a little bit, got a little sidetracked. But that's okay, because sometimes when you lose focus and get sidetracked, sometimes that's when the best experiments happen. And you can come up with things you never thought of before. And I've seen him get better and better and better every time. It's been great having him in class. I really enjoy having him in class. He's in my class.
Yeah. And he's seen the benefit. Where this works is he's seen the positive consequence of paying better attention,
right,
listening better. He gets more opportunities, he gets more badges, he earns his stripes more readily.
Right. And so for anyone listening that doesn't understand or has never seen our process always rewards good behavior first. And so the kids get to see all the attention and rewards going to anyone that gives good behavior. And then every time we get even the slightest bit of better behavior out of somebody, we're going to award them too. This is something I talked to my assistants about the other day. You can't set the bar here and say, I want everybody to focus at this level, right? I kind of do that, and anybody above that level, they get rewarded for their focus, and everybody else that wants that attention comes up. But what you also have to remember is that kid that pays terrible attention, has terrible focus issues, and they keep seeing these guys get the reward, if they show me one little step up, one time they do a little bit better, about paying attention, they get rewarded too. They don't have to cross this line for their reward. They just have to show improvement. Because once they get that first reward, they go, oh, now I can get good attention and good consequences if I keep doing this. So I'm going to do more of that. And then they move up here and they get rewarded again. And they move up here and they get rewarded again. Across 6 months, now they're up here. Now they're above the line, right? And that's the key. You can't just set a standard line and say, you don't get any rewards till you meet this level, especially if they're down here. You've got to reward them a little bit at each level, so that they see that the better they do, the more reward they get out of it, the better they feel about it, and the more likely they are to continue that behavior. Now, mostly I'm talking here for the 4 to 7 year old range, 4 to 8 year old range, sometimes 9s, right? Once they hit 10 years old, it's kind of the same process, but you got to change it up a little bit because they want some independence, they want some autonomy. And so at that point, you kind of have to change the types of consequences and the types of rewards a little bit to have the same effect, if that makes sense. Ms. Chantel, you guys are awesome. Can't wait to oh man, we're really excited. I think I sent you a message this morning. Really excited to possibly have you guys come back. I missed having you guys around and all that. I know you guys are doing football and different things. So I know things get busy. So especially this time of year, goodness, it gets crazy busy this time of year. So I'm really excited how many of you guys came on. The last question I have for anyone that's made it this long in the video is let me know in the comments a time frame you would like to see us do the live videos. And of course, anytime you miss a live video, within 24 hours, it'll be up in the hashtag Teammate Talks podcast, which you can find almost anywhere you get your podcast. If you go to somewhere you get your podcast and you can't find it there, let me know and I'll see if I can get it added there, right? So, so we're going to start that. I just want to know if you guys enjoy the live factor where we can have some give and take and conversation. Would you prefer me do it on a Friday afternoon? Or would you prefer me try to do it say on a Thursday after classes, at 8:30, do an 8:30 to 9, 8:30 to 9:30 type thing? Or I can't do Sundays. I have to have a day where I'm not talking to people. I love y'all, but I need one day. I need one day. Yeah. I need the one day. As you can see, a lot of people are like, well, Fridays must be easy for you guys. No, Fridays we have to get in here earlier than ever and do more work than ever, partially because it's Axel's work day for his business, and we always end up having more people to reach out to on Friday than any other day. What on average, 25 to 40 different people we reach out to every Friday?
Yeah.
On top of it being my day to finish up anything I didn't get done through the week and to do administrative tasks and things like that. So yeah, Fridays are tough. But I can try to work in some live video time or whatever. Let me know what you guys think in that. But we've been on here for an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and jump off here.
That's what happens when I jump.
And just like you spilling stuff?
No, my circle doesn't spill. There, I need to be a sponsor. Come on, Circle.
See,
I need Circle to sponsor our podcast.
You ruined me. My brain went really bad when you said that. I went into a terrible place.
My circle.
Yeah.
With all of my cool
Okay.
channels.
All right. Before I say something I'm going to regret, I'm going to go ahead and jump off here. We're going to do it just like we always did our podcasts in the past. If I can remember this.
Be the best teammate.
Oh, yeah. No, how did we start it? Oh, until we see you guys again. Be the best teammate you can be and be the best at being you. I'll see you guys later. If I can remember how to